I was watching FS1, as I always do in the afternoon. I was watching Speak with Marcellus and Jason and you just a few days ago, and you said something that, and I say this with respect because it shows the power of your voice, that made me stand up in my office and say, you've got to be kidding me. You said that LeBron, if he could choose to have the season canceled or resume, that he wants it canceled. I would have DVR'd it, or I would have rewound it, but I broke my television after you said it. Explain it to me, please, Mr. Bucher.
I'm guessing it's not the first time I've said something that's caused that visceral reaction from you, by the way. Knowing your affection for LeBron.
A few times.
But
okay, that's probably true, but go ahead.
That said, look, all of this was generated by a podcast that LeBron did with Richard Jefferson and Channing Frye, his teammates, and Allie Clifton, the Road Trippin' podcast. And I listened to the width and breadth of that podcast. And first of all, I look at how calculating LeBron is. It's a combination of what I heard on the podcast and what I know about LeBron and what LeBron knows about winning championships and what he needs to get there and the calculations that he's made. And I really, in some ways, meant it, believe it or not, as a compliment to what he's accomplished at age 35. As of right now, he's my MVP for the year. And it's extraordinary what he's been able to do with this Lakers team. All that said, when I listened to the podcast and I heard him talking about, he talked about how quickly at 35 you decondition and how it's not fair that they would go into the playoffs for all of the work that teams did to position themselves over the first 60 games, and the concern of the Blazers getting in and playing the number one seed. I heard a guy who just didn't sound and not playing with any fans in the building. I heard a guy talking about all the reasons why he wouldn't want to play. And I believe that he did everything possible, both from a personal standpoint and from a team standpoint, to position the Lakers this year to give them the best opportunity to win a championship. And all of that is out the window. It's starting from scratch. It's a complete unknown, because the reality is they're not going to resume with a regular season. It's going to be 0 to 60. And when I look at him and what he requires, and it's partly him at 35 and how careful he was in preparing himself for these playoffs through this season, but it's also looking at this Lakers team and the guys that they have. And I look across the board and I think, okay, is he going to be in prime shape when he gets back? It's a bad bet that he would be able to finish this. And so rather than looking at it through the prism of, hey, if this hadn't happened, LeBron James had the Lakers primed to do the complete unexpected and win a championship, it would be, we're throwing this up in the air. This is, and knowing how acutely he is judged by what happened, I have no doubt that if you gave him the choice between the two, that it's like, you know what, I'm good. I don't have a need to come back and play this summer.
If I may push back a bit on a few things. One is a lot of your concerns about the Lakers apply to every team. I just saw a quote from Giannis saying, my problem is I don't have it was Giannis or Chris Middleton, my apologies. I read it during the break, saying, I don't have a hoop at my house, so I've just been working on dribbling. Well, that seems like a problem. Kawhi, we can say the layoff is good for him, but someone whose body is so delicate that he can't play more than 60 games in an NBA season, I don't know how he's going to respond to a long layoff. And then there's LeBron, who spends over $1 million a year on his body and is the most finely tuned and in shape guy at 35 we've ever seen, and a guy who, aside from tearing the groin, has never suffered an injury. I would think if everyone's at a disadvantage, LeBron would say, okay, we had the best team before, why don't we now? And the part that made me stand up in my chair when I heard you say it the first time, and even now, is the idea that he would take a 0% chance at winning the title over any chance, whatever it would, even if it's lesser, To me, that belies the person he has proven to be, Rick.
Well, you're right in that I would expect him to want to play. And I would expect him to realize that, yeah, you don't have any fans in the building, but you know what? You're putting on a product for fans out there. How grateful would they be to see LeBron James back on the court? They may not be in the building and they may not be cheering for you, but you're going to be giving people something at a time that they're desperate for, they're hungry for. It's to the point that you're right. Look, LeBron he's been cleared to work with his personal trainer. I'm sure he has a fantastic gym at his compound, however you want to describe it.
Yeah.
So that to me is just it. It's like I would have, if LeBron were on the podcast saying, man, I want to play. We've had such a great season. We've put ourselves in position. If he were talking that way, then I'd say, okay, this dude wants to close the deal because of all the work that he's done this point. But again, I'm going strictly by what I heard on the podcast. And what I heard on the podcast was all the reasons why he wouldn't want to come back and play under these circumstances. That's what I'm going by.
Well, and again, and we don't have to go further than this, I think on the podcast, it was maybe his response to the Ric Buchers of the world who had said the layoff could be great for him. Like, oh, he's going to be at a bigger advantage because now he gets to rest.
But I was not one of those. And I do think there's a distinction between the Paul Georges and the Kawhi Leonards and even the Giannis Antetokounmpos at, mid-20s, mid to late 20s versus a guy as conditioned at 35, starting the engines and then jumping into the playoffs. Yep. That is you're asking a lot of an older body.
It's all fair, and there is a distinction between LeBron and the Giannis and Paul and Kawhi. He's better than all of them still. Rick, I wish we had more time. You're the best. I appreciate it so very, very much. I will talk to you soon.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.